Lana Blakely is a Swedish YouTuber who has over 1 million subscribers, gained in only 3 years. She talks about a variety of topics like relationship, productivity and well-being with her truly outstanding ability to tell captivating stories and relate to all of us. As I'm also from Sweden and love productivity, I wanted to know how Lana managed to become so good at what she does. I watched all of her 133 videos and discovered 5 best practices that you can implement today to become as productive as Lana Blakely. Let's go with the first one. The first thing you will see in Lana's videos is this very minimalistic and simple look. It's not like you're bombarded with crazy editing, but instead the complete opposite. The advice and stories she tells are very easy to follow along. And I think this way of productivity, this very important aspect, is very often overlooked. We often get caught up in this perfect system, this automations, and overall trying to be both clear and fancy to impress others. But what happens when we put out some gas, turn on the production volume, become faster and faster, and also encounter chaos? Many of the fancy things break. And instead of trying to protect them, the best thing is to cut them out and only keep the simple things that work. So being simple in production life is really the way to go in order to get some extraordinary results. As a recent example, I noticed a difference in how I filmed my 10 first videos versus now. Back then I spent 3 hours just on the script, set out everything to record and tried to incorporate every single editing feature I knew at the time. And now I'm just writing on the phone, just casually turning off the camera and keeping the editing much simpler, with some humor of course, because I like it. Because after all, this is what productivity is. More output per unit of time with less input. So doing less and doing more and better what is left seems to be the way to go. Lana is also big about the Swedish word ro, which means some kind of stillness and tranquility. It almost feels like you turned off yourself, so it's quite counterintuitive. But aside from basic advice such as meditation and being in nature, how can we get into this lugn och ro state right now? Personally, I found that whenever I try to not get into it, I become still automatically. If I try to become rofylld med mycket stillhet, I get this cloud of guilt which basically says, am I still now? Oh no, I'm not still. Why can I be still? But if I just take it easy and let it come as it goes and overall not try to interfere with anything, it becomes naturally. Lana has journaled every day for an astounding 19 years. Think about that, 19 years, ever since she was 8 years old. She attributes a lot of her well-being and effectiveness to that practice. And she's 100% right. Being able to translate our thoughts into paper is the way to go to reduce cognitive overload and overwhelm. We no longer need to remember what we come up with and can safely forget them in order to retrieve them later, usually years later. So journaling is basically a more condensed and more scheduled way of emptying your mind, emptying your cup, and be sure that you have everything free for your wide-ranging ideas. But journaling also have another benefit, telling stories to yourself. As I said before, Lana is an amazing storyteller, and storytelling is probably the most important skill to master as a creator, at least if you listen to successful creators out there. And telling stories to yourself, capturing what you discovered every day, is certainly a surefire way to improve that ability. But even if journaling is mostly in private, you can also journal in public. Back in November last year, I noticed an extreme shift in myself when I started to write a new article every single day. And because I had to show up for the next day, I needed to observe more. I needed to look around for anything I know and use that as fuel, as ammunition I was going to write next. And even to this day, I use Twitter as some kind of a public journal, a place to share observations and what has helped me during the days. So whether you like physical notebooks or digital note-taking apps or both, you can write down your thoughts so you can be free to enter this tranquil state of lugn och ro. In many of her videos, Lana shares that she walks outside a lot, from 1 to several hours every day to reconnect and recharge. And walking is truly one of the secret hacks to effectiveness. It keeps you literally going. Your energy and also your alertness becomes high. And I've even gone so far as writing articles and writing scripts while walking in order to get the most benefit. Somehow every worrying thought, every bit of anxiety seems to vanish when I breathe in fresh air. And according to neuroscience, walking creates this optic flow in our eyes that suppresses the amygdala, the threat detection center in our brain. I think it's very liberating to know that all our progress, all our available time to do our best work does not happen necessarily in front of our computer. Having this locked-in posture with its side effects, but by using walking to unlock creativity, we can unlock more balance in how we do things. This is something I've never heard before, but can actually be the difference if you procrastinate to get stuff done. If you're into productivity, you've probably heard about the to-do list, which can be either sacred but mostly dreaded and feared, let's be honest. But Lana shows it differently. She calls a to-do list a target list. Instead of to-dos, they are now targets, something to aim at every day. I mean, think about it. Whenever you hear to do, there is this expectation that we need to suffer or the world is going to fall apart. The targets. Now we have something to literally look forward to. We have an aim, call it a goal, direction that we can generate positive emotions towards. Another reframe Lana uses is get to versus have to. If you say, I have to write this essay, I have to go to the gym, I have to do the laundry, there is again this cloud of guilt, this unnecessary weight in your shoulder that makes it more awful. But if you say, I get to write this essay, I get to go to the gym, I get to do the laundry, the opposite happens. Now it's a reward, something you got the privilege for, and it's so easy to be grateful over it. Now it might seem very small and quite insignificant, but it's actually not. How we say the words we're using is how we think and ultimately act. So if we use terms that benefit us instead of hurting us, we might have a much bigger tailwind than we realize. I believe that was something Lana discovered for herself when she was journaling. You get this enhanced self-awareness since you literally see the words you use, the phrases that come up again, again, and again. Like for instance, target list instead of to-do list. Once again, it's so brilliant, I'm actually going to use the term myself, so thank you for that. The last one is more psychological, that can give the necessary perspective to succeed. If you watch a lot of Lana's videos, you can see a recurring theme popping up. Slow down in the moment, don't deplete your energy sources, and you will win by outlasting. I noticed that myself, and especially today it clicked. There's this kind of opposite polarity, also called backwards law, where you need to do the opposite in order to get what you want. If you want to gain status, you give the most to the group. If you want to become stronger fast, you need to hurt yourself, become temporarily weaker much faster. And if you want to get a ton of money every month, give a ton of money. The same goes for productivity. If you want to be really productive, there is something magical with taking a step back, trying to be as unproductive as possible and not think about the future. Then the cloud of guilt dissolves, the pressure is lifted, you can do what you want with minimum effort. As for Lana, being so relaxed in terms of attitude, presence for the camera and overall outlook, she has mastered that dynamic of slow versus fast. She's not burning out but keeps showing up strong, and from a results perspective she is going really fast, which is what's mattering in the end. So if you want to achieve as much as Lana Blakely in a short period of time, these are the 5 secrets. 1. Keep things simple because simple scales. 2. Journal a lot. 3. Walk a ton. 4. Reframe the terms, use your own words to your advantage, like target list instead of to-do list. And 5. Slow down in the moment in order to speed up in the grand scheme of things. And if you want to see more of Lana Blakely, I highly recommend to check out her YouTube channel and subscribe. And most of all, don't forget to have some in Swedish lugn och ro right now and onwards.